This review has been made possible by Chevrolet of Naperville. As you know, Chevy has tons of brand new cars and trucks available for purchase, but did you know that they also have a remarkable selection of used cars? Head on over to ChevroletofNaperville.com and look through hundreds of used cars for sale right now. Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2019 Land Rover Discovery. Up front is a 3.0 liter supercharged V6, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. This video is sponsored by CarMarshal.com. If you'd like to support the channel, click the link down in the description below. CarMarshal.com advertises for over 100,000 vehicles across the US. But let's get back to that 3.0 liter gasoline V6. Now the reason I keep saying gasoline is because they also make a 3.0 liter V6 in the diesel version. This is not that. This is not the diesel version, and so my comments throughout the video will not be about anything diesel because this isn't a diesel. But that being said, it is a 3-liter V6. Now the interesting thing is that I have reviewed 3 different Range Rovers this year, and none of which have had the same engine, which is really interesting. Each model has its own engine, which isn't really all that common in a brand. I mean, let's take Ford for instance. The Ranger shares a motor with the EcoBoost Mustang. Mazda shares the engine with almost every single one of its models. The 3 has the 2.5, the 6 has the 2.5, the CX-5 has the 2.5. And so for Land Rover to offer all different engines in all their models is actually something you don't find all that much anymore. But that being said, this is the 3-liter V6. Let's see how it does on the test track. Not bad. I mean, it's not going to blow you away. It's a 3-liter V6. It definitely has the pep, has a little bit extra torque over that 2-liter that comes in the Evoque. It's not bad. It's not super impressive, but it definitely works, and it's not the most sluggish thing in the world. As you just saw, it is what it is. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Nothing really too crazy here. You know, it does what it's supposed to do. It's a modern automatic transmission, so it's not jerky, it's not bumpy, it's not obtuse. It just works. It honestly just works, and I don't really have anything else to comment on that. Last but not least, the Discovery is, of course, all-wheel drive. So let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 2 physical gauges. On the left is my speedometer, which goes up by odd increments of 10, 30, 50, 70, 90, 110, 130, 150, which is really interesting. And then on the right, of course, I have my tachometer, revs out to 6,500 RPM. And then in the middle, I do get a little screen giving me all my other, information. MPG, distance till empty, my temperature outside, the time, my speed in digits, stuff like that. On the steering wheel, on the right, I have my cruise control options for set, resume, and then on the left, I do have my volume, phone, and track change options. I like the steering wheel a lot. It's pretty big, and the buttons are very large. Might be some of the largest buttons I've seen on a steering wheel in a vehicle in recent times. And I like that. I honestly like the look of it. It's very Land Rover. To the left of me, I just have my dimmer switches and tailgate opener. And then on the door, this is such a Land Rover thing. They have the window switches up top. They sort of sit on the door, which is sort of interesting. Not really all that used to it, but that's how they are here in the Discovery. And then my lock and unlock switches are down where traditionally the window switches would be. In the center, I do have 2 vents and then my infotainment center. This is a pretty typical Land Rover / Jaguar infotainment center. They use the same operating system. I like it. I like the fact that in the background I get some trees and it's sort of outdoorsy, and it's sort of a nice alternative to, the standard infotainment screen that you find in literally every other car. I like it. It works. Then down below the infotainment center, you do have your climate controls. They look almost like an afterthought. They look like they were just bolted in there. There's a lot of negative space with the climate controls, and that's not a big deal. Just aesthetically, it's a little bit odd. I feel like something's missing, even though it isn't. But that being said, you have turn dials, dual climate controls, stuff like that. Then we come down to the center console. This is where we will find the rotary dial shifter, which, as I say in all of my Land Rover and Jaguar reviews, I really like the fact that it sucks itself into the dash when the car turns off. I think that's just like a cool mechanism. Kind of feels like I'm in a spaceship. Then I do have a nice Land Rover badge, which we'll talk about later. And then I have a couple different drive modes. So right now we're in normal. I can switch to grass, gravel, snow, mud ruts, sand, and then we're back to special programs off, which is just normal mode. I really like that. I mean, I like the fact that they give you a bunch of different options for, whatever terrain you're going to tackle. I like that a lot. And then we have hill descent control, which is essentially cruise control for going downhill. If you've ever off-roaded before, you're going down a real tight path or a real steep incline, your major concern is to not hit anything or roll. And so you can kind of set cruise control for going downhill, and it'll keep the car from going faster than you can process. And so you'll stay out of the trees and stay out of the flipping over. Then I have my traction control off button and my auto start stop off button, which of course I love. And then the electronic parking brake. Now the seats, the back side is nice. Where my back goes, nice. The actual bottom cushion part is pretty hard. That was the very first thing that I noticed getting into the Discovery, was just how hard the bottom of the seat is. And so on longer journeys, it might not be the best. But we do have back seats, so let's do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2019 Land Rover Discovery, and these seats are harder than the front. These really, really feel like park benches. I wish that they were a little bit more plush. That being said, I do have these interesting pull-out folders in front of me. Speakers in the door, window switches up above the door. Nothing really too crazy. I do have some lights right here I can turn on and off. But interestingly enough, on the door, there's a little switch that, well, it looks like a switch, but it's not. It looks like a button. It actually alarms you when the door is open. So it actually lights up when the door is open, which I've never actually seen on a car, that it actually tells you that the rear doors are open. So I'll crack it just a little bit, and that light comes on. Really interesting. I do have vents in the B pillars. I do have a center console, 2 cup holders, no storage area. It's an okay back seat. It's not the best. Last thing about the interior is the fact that I do have dual sunshades. So I'll actually close this one up for a second. Maybe it'll make it easier to see the rear one. I actually have a separate rear sunroof. And so this is actually sort of an homage to the older Land Rover Discoveries. They have sunroofs in the back for the rear. So this is just sort of that more adventurous thing. If you guys have ever seen Jurassic Park, they actually have Ford Explorers in that movie with custom glass roofs. They actually made them custom for the movie with glass roofs on the top so you could see the T-Rexes and stuff like that. That's the sort of vibe that I get from back there, is that it sort of opens you up to the possibility of staring up into the stars or up at the weather, learning about clouds, learning about the stars, the cosmos. That's the sort of idea and vibe that I get from those rear-mounted sunroofs. It allows you to look up and wonder and discover. And then we have to talk about looks with the Discovery. I like the look of it. I think it's definitely modern. And for right now, before most of the new Land Rover Defenders are released, I think this is a good small-sized Land Rover SUV. But once the Defender really starts getting into full swing, I think this thing is going to be outdated real quick, just because the new Defender is so interesting. And at the time of filming, the Defender was only announced maybe 2-3 days ago, and so it is still pretty new, and I can't wait to get my hands on one of those. One complaint I do have about the appearance is that tailgate. Why did they make the tailgate and license plate off center? It is horrible. I cannot get over how bad of an idea that was by Land Rover to offset the license plate. It does not look good. But I have to say, with the looks considered, it's not the most striking vehicle, but I think it looks good. And overall, my consensus of this is that it is a nice vehicle, but it doesn't really blow me away. The interior is very similar to the Evoque. It has the same infotainment screen, a lot of shared parts from the Evoque. But this is definitely more off-road oriented. And like I mentioned, we would talk about it later, this is a Land Rover. So if you don't know, Land Rover makes the Range Rover. The technical term for the Evoque is the Land Rover Range Rover Evoque. However, everyone just calls them Range Rovers and they just shorten it down, and essentially they go by the name of Range Rover. This is one of the few cars Land Rover makes that they actually go by their normal Land Rover name. This is a Land Rover Discovery, not a Range Rover Discovery. I think what's interesting about that is that anything Land Rover sticks their name all over, like the Discovery, it's going to be more off-road, more adventurous oriented. You know, the older Discoveries had the rear sunroofs. The ride of this thing is not only somewhat stiff, but it's very high up. I feel very disconnected from the road. I feel like I'm in a pickup truck, really. And everything is far away. You know, my gauges, I can reach my hand all the way out. I can't even touch the gauges. I mean, everything is it feels very large for how small this SUV really is. And what I'm getting at is that this is just such an interesting vehicle, and I'm really curious to see how it plays out against the Defender. Because since the Defender's absence in 2015, this has sort of been filling in the gap for that adventurous small SUV offered from... I almost did it again. I almost said Range Rover. This is the adventurous small SUV from Land Rover for 2019. The 2019 lineup, not the 2020, the 2019 lineup. This is the adventurous small SUV from Land Rover. And honestly, it's not bad, but it's not hardcore. It doesn't sell its soul to the off-roading gods. It's capable for sure, but not 100% sold on it. And so would I buy one of these Discoveries right now? No, I wouldn't. I would wait for the Defender. The Defender just looks better. It looks more capable. It looks obviously newer. And although I haven't driven one, I'd have to say I would probably wait out and see if I could pick up a Defender. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something about the 2019 Land Rover Discovery. Huge thank you to Chevy of Naperville for letting me take out their used Land Rover. They have tons and tons of cars on the lot, so definitely check them out. Their website is up on the screen. If Chevys are not your thing, if Land Rovers are not your thing, still head on over to their website. They literally have hundreds of cars in stock right now, and there's always something you could choose from. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you would like to. Take care, guys. There goes a sight from my soul.